Welcome to Shareholder Q&A, a production of Gorecom in which we as shareholders to pose their questions directly to management and then get direct answers straight from the source. The source today, Steve McCauley, CEO, Empower Clinics, trades on the CSE under CBDT. For our friends in the US, EPWCF, and for our friends in Europe, 8EC. Steve, you're coming to us from an undisclosed location. Welcome. Where are you right now? Tell everybody.
Hey, George, great to be here. Well, I actually am grateful to be at Chi Medical Laboratory in Dallas, Texas this week.
Let's go.
We've got so many great product development things going on right now. And of course, you know, our clinics in the US and the lab are deemed essential services in the US. And actually this work is essential for me to get down here because, as you know, we've got applications in with Health Canada. We really want to bring our Chi medical tests to the Canadian market to help restart travel based on the new policies. So definitely critical work for me to be down here with the team.
Yeah, no doubt that if anyone's following the protocols and if anyone's getting tested every 10 minutes, it's you. But can we see the lab at all? I guess you're in a room or something like that. I don't know.
I'm in a conference room that you can maybe see through the glass there, but that's
got it. All right, gives us a sneak peek, gives us something there.
The scientists are hard at work. There's a lot of specimens coming in every day, so we've got everybody kind of rolling here. But yeah, it's just it's great to be here with the team and really understand you know, what their needs are and make sure that we can get them the investment and support to handle all this growth that's coming our way.
And before I get into the questions, and I want to thank all the shareholders online on the Gorecom on Twitter that post their questions. We got them, and we're going to go through it here. But before we get to those, you're at Chi, and you put out some pretty important news today that Chi is effectively going to be doubling its size based on anticipated growth. Shareholders loved it. You saw the We saw the reaction online. We saw the reaction in the market. We saw the details. You want to give us some color on that, you know, and how you feel about the fact that you're doubling already, and it's November, December. You know, you're basically 3 months in, and you're doubling the size.
Well, you know, it's a credit to the team down here. You know, we've been able to, you know, provide some additional investment capital that's really making a difference. You know, I've talked about it before, but one of the things that was most impressive to me going through due diligence with Chi was the fact that they had such great R&D capability. And, you know, that was, I think, one of the kind of missing pieces for the business model of Chi was just to be able to focus on research and development and bring, you know, novel new test products to market. And in an extremely short period of time, they've done it. And, you know, we're seeing great traction already with our Chi saliva test kit and where that's going. But one of the operational challenges is really around space and logistics. And we're hiring like crazy right now because there's just so much demand every single day. Specimens are coming morning, noon, and night. And we've got scientists working till 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to get the
results. You're doing shifts. You're doing 24-hour shifts. Or not 24-hour, but 8.
Yeah, so not quite 24-hour shifts, but we're having to stagger the workflow in order to just meet the increasing demand and meet the response times for our clients.
And 7 days a week. 7 days a week, right?
It's 7 days a week. So, you know, we have you know, growth or scaling and providing additional resources is as an imperative. And, you know, one of the most important things for me to do on a trip like this is to really understand where the potential supply chain issues might be, where the operational workflow challenges might be, because, you know, we're setting expectations with the team here. You know, what do we have to do to be ready to handle 1,000 specimens a day, 2,000 a day, 3,000 a day? And that ramp up is now becoming real. You know, when we see how we're organizing ourselves. So adding we have 3 new scientists who just started. We've got additional medical techs starting. We're going to resource up various data entry people. We're adding call center staff, and we have to expand our facility. We've got to at least double our size.
At least double your size, could be more.
Yeah.
And I know you're being magnanimous, by the way, by saying team, and it is team, but let's face it, you have led, what you've really done is supercharge the marketing, the biz dev, and the processes that you know best. So it's, you got to give yourself some credit for, that all this happening now in such a short period of time. Congratulations, man. And as a shareholder and with all the shareholders at home, we're ecstatic with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of good feedback. I mean, it's great to have, this positive momentum and support, and I'm very grateful to the shareholders as well. I get a lot of compliments. I get a lot of encouragement. I get a lot of challenging questions. There's a lot of shareholders who are tremendous at research. So, the integrity of the information that we put out, and even having, sessions like this on a regular basis is proving to be the right way to communicate. Our shareholder base, want transparency, and they want access to information. They want access to me. And so I endeavor to do my very best to respond to every email, every text message. Sometimes we have to use this format, which I think is a great medium, through Agoracom. We put a communications manager in front of all the inquiries that are coming in. So we're just getting our organizational structure set up to start to get into the big leagues, right? And become a much higher valuation company, and potentially eventually get to an uplist to a different market.
I'm going to say that all shareholders of all companies want transparency, but very few CEOs are willing and able to do the kind of things you're doing, especially these interviews, and soon enough engaging investors on Agoracom where it's verified. And because it takes a lot, right? Look, you're in Dallas, you must have 100 things to do. You're on a clock. I'm sure you're going to be flying home at some point, and yet you're doing this, right? And I think that's what separates you from 99% of everyone else, that you take the time to do these. And so let's get to them. Right?
Let's go. Let's see what questions we have for me.
First one, Stuart King. So guys, everybody, thanks for the questions. Let's go here. Stuart King says, "Hey, Steve, I'm a financial advisor. I look for small cap opportunities for him and his clients. Believes Empower is situated for success. He's seen over the last year examples of small cap companies with great potential that dilute their shares to finance growth. So his question is, will Empower Clinics be able to finance growth and development without issuing more stock? This is generally in the best interest of all shareholders."
Yeah, so right now, one of the great blessings that's come upon us is, as our liquidity has continued to be strong, we had a very strong market to close out the 2020 year. We were able to get really exciting stock price lift, and that triggered really a flood of warrant conversions. As we've talked about, we put out a couple of press releases on that, and it continues, frankly, on a daily basis still. So we're probably now approaching 8 million has converted. And that has really been great capital that has come to us without having to go to market to do another round of financing. To answer the question about the future, I mean, we want to continue to build a war chest. $8 million and positive cash flow business units is a great combination. We just don't have this massive burn rate. We've got a lot of really good business fundamentals in place, and they're getting better and they're getting stronger. So when we look to the future later out this quarter and beyond, what we have to do is look to how much do we want to continue to scale through merger and acquisition? How much do we want to continue to scale through our Canadian clinic rollouts, and what costs are going to be required to fund all that? So there may be a situation going forward where we feel it's appropriate to do a much larger brokered financing at a much higher valuation, but we don't have anything specifically lined up this very moment. We're grateful for our current cash position. We got the best balance sheet the company's ever had in its entire history.
And income statement on top of that now. So you got balance sheet and you got an income statement starting to grow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when everybody starts to see the results coming through from this tremendous growth that Kai Medical is experiencing, our Canadian clinic rollouts are really will be quite astonishing for our top line and for our EBITDA going forward. So I think we've got ourselves kind of a great combination of true business fundamentals, really strong top line, but it's throwing off cash. And it's going to be fairly reasonable to start to talk about positive earnings per share in the future.
Yeah, and these expenses you're taking on now have added space through more scientists, more. That's all variable. You're not stuck with that. You're only doing that because more business coming through the door. So you're
Yeah,
not burning. You're not
demand.
burning.
I mean, yeah, we literally have to do this to meet demand,
Yeah.
and we have increasing demand. So it's incumbent upon us to plan accordingly. We can't fall short on having supply chain issues in the future and disappoint customers because we can't process specimens. So that's on us to really understand that. And we've got the capital runway to provide the working capital support to Kai Medical to be ready for that future demand. And that's what we're doing.
He also, second question from Stuart King, will Empower look to develop other forms of COVID-19 tests?
So, there's various versions. I mean, I think we're really well covered. We have the standard PCR tests. We have our Kai ABC version of that processing, which is the COVID, influenza A, and influenza B out of one specimen. We've got our new Kai saliva test, which is also a PCR test, but it's a novel new version of how to collect the specimen. But most importantly, it can be home-based, delivered to home and self-administered, whether it's an individual or it's for commercial purposes. And we're involved with our other rapid antigen test as well, which is currently in the FDA and is under submission to Health Canada. So with respect to other kinds of tests, I mean, I think we're looking at the potential of point of care test machines, so rapid test machines that could be placed at an airport or placed in a hotel or whatever the case may be. We've been historically been doing clinical trials or clinical validations on that type of machinery. So I think we'll have more to talk about with that in the future, but that's just not ready to go yet. But it's, again, one of the strengths of Kai Medical is will be or continues to be its R&D capabilities.
He also goes on to say, on behalf of all shareholders, thank you for your continued investor outreach. It does not go unnoticed. Thanks for saying that, Stuart.
Great. Thank you, Stuart.
Appreciate it. Next up is Colin. I was just wondering how the airline talks were going in terms of the rapid COVID test. And who are you talking to? Is it just Canadian Airlines or is it more airlines in North America, around the world?
Yeah, so there's obviously a tremendous amount of news on these topics almost daily. The new Canadian update just came out yesterday or today. You would have seen that the new president in the U.S. just signed an executive order today requiring having a negative COVID-19 test to come into the United States by air from international countries. The other thing to be noted is that these have to be PCR tests. They cannot be any form of rapid test, like a rapid antigen or rapid antibody. And the government of Canada gave a firm position on that just today. So the version that we think is going to be very successful to restart travel, to help airlines, to help Canadians, to help Americans, is the Kai saliva RT-PCR test. We think that's ideally suited to sell to travelers, partner with airlines, build kiosks at airports so that travelers can pick them up before they travel, knowing that they're going to have to initiate 72 hours before they want to come home the specimen collection, send it to our lab so we can provide that negative result that will allow them to get back on a plane. These types of solutions, we're in conversations with Air Canada, with Swoop, with WestJet, and we're also talking to private aviation down here in the States to try to help them with these dilemmas also. So I think we're going to expect to see quite a bit more progress on that front. One of the key aspects that we have to go through as Empower is, now that we have our Canadian healthcare footprint in place, we have filed our medical device license application. That's that MDL application that I alluded to.
We announced this morning.
Yeah, so we need that application to be approved by Health Canada for us to legally sell medical devices in Canada to Canadians. We have received confirmation back from Health Canada that application is received. We have a tracking number, it's in progress, and we will hope to have an answer on that in the very, very near future. And we think that's then going to trigger the ability for us to sell the Kai Medical Saliva Kit to Canadians in Canada.
Colin finishes off with thank you for your time. Keep up the hard work.
Thank you, Colin.
Keep working, okay?
Keep working hard and working long hours.
Thanks, Colin. Next up, Edward Liu. Very straightforward. One asked Steve, Q4 2020 release date. When do you think Q4 is going to come out, or are you just going to bring that along with the annuals at the same? Usually the annuals come out together with Q4, right? Or
so that's the case. Yeah. So our filing deadline is April 30th of 2021. So we have already commenced our audit for fiscal year 2020. That's well underway. This is the earliest start that we've had since the company has been public. So there's nothing to indicate that we're going to have any delays. We usually target to try to have it on the 45-day cycle. So my goal would be in and around April 15th. But we have a lot of work to do. But again, thankfully, we've got a good head start. And Kyle Appleby, our CFO, is leading that charge along with the various accounting groups in our subsidiaries.
Yeah, and you're really, really fast before the acquisition of Kai because you had all the reporting down to a science and a process. I guess once you added Kai in, then naturally the CFO has to add on a layer of reporting that takes a little time to get used to. So
yeah, well, we really have two entities to add on, right? Because we have the Canadian clinic acquisition that technically closed in 2020.
True.
So that will be added into the financials for year end, and then of course we have Kai Medical's results, 3 months of results to roll in to our results and into our consolidation.
Norwich Nick Wilson. I love some of these names, guys. I love that name. He says he's very excited about Empower's future. When and how will the public be able to order the saliva COVID test? Kai Saliva.
So, yeah, there's going to be two methods. Obviously, if you're a Canadian, then we have to wait till we get our medical device license approved. We have secured a new toll-free number that we'll be publishing probably at the beginning of next week. We'll make sure that the team at Kai are comfortable with that, and they'll ultimately be the ones to give the green light. And then we are building out our direct-to-consumer platform at kaitest.com. There's a placeholder at that URL right now, but we're building out our e-commerce store, and that will be probably the most efficient way to have a kit ordered, sent to your location, and then you go ahead and start the process of specimen collection and return for processing.
All right. Next up, growth investor 123. Hi, Steve. How many warrants are currently outstanding? I'm not sure if you would have that, maybe, or maybe you do have at the tip of your fingers.
It's the number is decreasing, dramatically from where it was. At last count, I believe it was somewhere between 50 and 55 million warrants. But again, that's declining with all the conversions that are coming through. So we may in fact be down below 50 million warrants at this point in time. And that's coming down. We were at, I believe it was 94 million, but with the tremendous rate of conversions, it's dropping dramatically.
Warrants dropping, cash going up.
Yes.
Peter Davis. What are the timelines for Health Canada approval of Kai Medical Saliva PCR test for at-home specimen collection?
So this is a good topic to try to clarify for our followers. So the base saliva specimen collection unit is actually manufactured by a Canadian medical device company, and that unit already has Health Canada approval. The issue for us is simply we need to have our medical device license approved so that we can sell the Health Canada approved device to Canadians under the entire Kai medical kit, or sorry,
Right.
COVID saliva kit. So it's not so much that Kai Medical needs to gain Health Canada approval. It's the fact that the kit collection manufacturer is Canadian, and that they already have their Health Canada approval for that specimen collection kit.
And his second question here was, are there opportunities for the saliva test to be used regularly at long-term care facilities? Yeah, that's we've never really discussed that before.
Yeah, that's an easy one. And that's actually a very good application. I mean, one of the challenges when you deal with a long-term care facility is that you're having to test your residents, your patients regularly, and in some cases it might be multiple times per week. If you are having to get that nasal swab repeatedly, it can provide a lot of irritation and discomfort to the resident. One of the beauties about the Kai saliva test kit is it's very easy to administer. In fact, can be self-administered, or depending on the health condition of the resident, then one of the residents' team members on the clinical side could assist with it. But it's a very simple, easy specimen collection process.
Dalen 06, and Peter, thanks for those questions. Dalen 06, two questions. When can we expect an additional lab outside of Texas? So I guess not necessarily he needs something outside of Texas, I guess the next one after Kai.
Yeah, so we are actively looking at opportunities right now. I'm interested in perhaps better coverage on the Eastern Seaboard, perhaps better geographical coverage on the West Coast, and I am actively interested in Canada. So if anybody happens to have a lead on a lab that could be acquired in Canada, please send me a text message or WhatsApp as soon as possible. And so again, we're anticipating being able to handle capacity, being able to handle responsiveness and turnaround times, and looking to, we want Kai Medical to be a national brand. I think they've got all the makings to do that now. And the more that we can expand that reach in other geographies, I think that's better for us all long term. Because remember, going forward, this is not just about COVID-19 testing and where that demand is right now. We fully expect to be back in, the other traditional type lab programs for blood, toxicology, hormone testing, whatever the case may be. And we're look to, in the future, bring to market through our kaitest.com new products related to, say, women's health or men's health, test protocols that can be administered at home.
Second question from him, or her, actually, I should say. How many of the 25,000 PCR tests have been sold since the news release on January the 7th? So
none of those yet, because the inventory is just arriving next week. So it's on its way right now from the manufacturer to our fulfillment partner, where it will get packaged up, boxed. But we're going to be in a position to start taking pre-orders for that right now. And so I would expect that, we're going to see those starting to sell through, right away, maybe, this time next week, or, the beginning of February. But, that sell-through rate is imminent.
Next set of questions come from Saeed. Now, Saeed, you had three, but fortunately, great questions. They've all been answered. So you asked about new lab acquisitions. We just heard about that. Health Canada approval. We heard about that. And financing to continue growth. So want to acknowledge you, Saeed, for giving us those questions, and just want to let you know those have already been answered. So, but thanks for participating. Jason Roy 88 brings up something interesting. He says, when it comes to integrative or integrating, I guess, health and telemedicine, and potentially incorporating technology to smartwatches to enhance health and wellness, do you foresee a partnership of Empower with other technology companies?
Yes, I do. And we have to kind of be careful about what we might define as a partnership. I would say that my preference in technology development will actually be more on the acquisition side. We want to own, the technology. We want to own the IP. We want to grow top line revenues. We want to grow access to patients. We want to grow access to physicians. So to the extent that I can find technology platforms that would be accretive from an acquisition standpoint, that would be my preference, as opposed to partnering or licensing elsewhere. But we're looking at a lot of different platforms right now. We've got our two new lead physicians in Canada, Dr. Rabinowitz and Dr. Zimmerman, really hitting the streets now, looking for technology, looking for partnerships and acquisitions on the technology front. So I think, as I've stated before, technology is going to be a very important theme for our company in 2021. So you can definitely expect to see much more coming related to technology.
Next question comes from Jason Roy again. So I don't know why they have him twice. You should have had both questions under his name. Jason Roy 88. Do you think that people that have been vaccinated will also need to have a test done before their travels for the foreseeable future?
I don't think there's a full, clear answer on that yet, and what that's going to look like.
I certainly hope not, right? I mean,
yeah, but the issue that seems to be unresolved related to vaccines and the concept of vaccine is, there isn't enough science now because of the rate of speed of these clinical trials. So there's some unknown aspects of its efficacy, the long-term success of a vaccine. Does it run out? Does it run out in 90 days? Does it last for a year? We just don't know yet, I don't believe. The other issue is the concept of central registry. Is, how do I validate that I have a vaccine, and what is the validation or the standardized validation method, or what's the acceptable validation method? So as an example, the announcements that just came out in the last couple of days from the Canadian government about travel, they specifically put in some policies that state only a PCR or LAMP test will be an acceptable form. Rapid antigen tests will not be accepted. And they've even stated there's specific information on the lab test results that must be provided at a minimum. Now, thankfully, Kai Medical's lab information system is compliant with those standards already. We don't have to adjust anything in our processes right now. So I'm really pleased with our ability to meet the guidelines of Canada and what I believe will be the guidelines of the United States as well. So it's a hard question to answer at this stage. I'm very confident to say that testing will be with us for a very long time.
Yeah, that we can say for sure. Yeah. We can definitely say that for sure. Next question is from the ground up. Their question was total amount of money brought in through the warrants. We've already talked about that. Yeah. So from the ground up, thanks for that. But Steve gave his answer earlier. Mavrock is next. This one's kind of interesting. With having to mail the samples back to Kai Labs for results, are there plans to have the capability of tests being analyzed without having to ship back to the labs? I mean, that would be great, but I don't know how you would do that, but it would be great.
Yeah, so you're almost talking about something magical, right? So yeah. When we're dealing with PCR tests, it requires scientists. It requires specialized laboratory equipment that is governed by regulatory agencies and are validated on a regular basis by these regulatory agencies. So it's not quite as simple as, hey, let's try to process it over here and not have to send it anywhere. The benefit, I mean, the alternative is a drive up nasal swab that has to be sent off to a lab anyhow. There's no way to avoid a certified high complexity lab processing the specimen to get the PCR, which is the gold standard processing method. So at this stage, this is how it's going to work. And whether you're having to send an overnight FedEx to Kai Medical in Dallas, or you're in Vancouver and have to send it to Winnipeg or send it to Toronto or vice versa, it's still an overnight FedEx. So it doesn't matter if it's processed here or processed in Canada. The testing result is what we're looking for, and that's communicated back to the person through secure email link or secure link through a text message.
And then they go on and ask one more question. If Empower gets involved with the travel industry, would setting up a makeshift, they got quotes, makeshift lab within the airports be feasible?
It is feasible, and we are in discussions on those topics, whether it's with YVR as an example, with the airlines themselves. We're in extended discussions with the Port of Vancouver and the cruise line reactivation program. So we are actively working on solutions. The challenges really come from the regulatory bodies and the CDC and Health Canada or FDA as an example, who may have policies that are so stringent that you cannot actually solve the problem of testing, day of travel. So we're working with all the groups. We're forming coalitions with other of our partners, such as Loop Insights, with private and public sector, to continue to accelerate and to lobby at the highest level to get these solutions, because the economy needs to get back up and running. Hotels and tourism need to get back to business. Travelers need to be able to travel, whether it's for work or for pleasure. And we have to figure out how to eliminate these 14-day quarantines, because they're not helping the situation right now.
Rex 2. Steve, what are your two most important goals that you're looking to accomplish by the end of Q1?
By the end of Q1 2021, I'd say that the two most important goals with respect to growth will be our really rapid expansion of Canadian clinics and our move into primary care alongside paramedical services. And there's going to be much more to come on that in the very near future. Right. I think the second most important thing for me is continuing to invest to set Chi Medical Laboratory up for success. They are absolutely they're just performing so well right now. It's astonishing. Our acquisition and our integration of that group is only 3 months old, and it has far outsurpassed my expectations going in.
And you got high expectations, so that's pretty damn good.
Well, we have I've always got high expectations of myself and high expectations of all of our team members. To meet the team at Chi Medical, you would know what Yoshi Tyler has put together, and her leadership really is shining through. I'm pleased to be able to bring additional support to them, particularly on certain business aspects, and of course capital, and really growth capital, and just give them the freedom to be able to expand, and it's not almost freedom, almost like permission to prepare for the great demand that's coming their way, and being able to confidently say that Chi Medical is a national and international brand when it comes to COVID-19 testing and other testing solutions.
Rex 2, who asked that question, must have a flux capacitor, because he must have gone into the future, knew what you just answered, went back to ask it, because he has in their next question, they ask, how's Chi Labs going to scale up producing COVID testing kits and then posting this result? And that was the whole answer right there.
Yeah, that is the answer. Yeah. They have to really be on the operational details. We have to get Six Sigma all over these guys, because this is going to become an exercise of continuous process improvement, making sure that we've got the space to operate. Think about what it would take, if you're receiving 1,000 or 2,000 specimens a day. That's a lot of intake.
Oh yeah.
Just intake alone. How are you going to operationalize that work? So, I'm really thinking about my Six Sigma days as I think about the lab, how the scientists work, how the lab is actually set up, like physically. What is the workflow What does the process line look like? And do we have the right systems? Do we have the right people in place? Do we have enough people in place to be able to deal with this continued demand that keeps on showing up at our doorstep?
By the way, I'm going to interject there because you've mentioned Six Sigma a couple of times, and we've got a ton of new investors, right, who maybe aren't aware of that. So if you don't mind, in 30 seconds, maybe just as a side note, explain to the new investors what your Six Sigma background means, because there's no other in 23 years and 450 clients and 5,000 companies I've looked at, there's never been a Six Sigma CEO in the small cap space. So why don't you explain, Steve, and why that is such a big deal for Empower?
Yeah, so I mean, this really stems from my corporate days at GE Capital, where I started in the Jack Welch era and converted. I was there while it flipped over to the Jeff Immelt era, and was fortunate to get a lot of exposure and a lot of promotions through the GE system. But one of the most important certifications that I endeavored to go through, and this was optional, it wasn't something that you were required to do, it's extracurricular, and that was really getting myself Six Sigma certified. And Six Sigma is a process improvement methodology. I would simply just Google it if anybody's curious. There's endless articles about it.
It's 7th degree black belt stuff for corporate for CEOs and leaders.
Yeah, exactly. And it's it's really been one of the great takeaways for me from my time at GE Capital, and I've used it throughout my career in one form or another. And so we should kind of keep coming back to it. And so as I come down and spend time at Kai, or I talk to the two doctors about how we expand, how we roll out, I'm continually talking about process improvement and operational efficiencies. Talking about things like supply chain and how are we going to meet demand by being more efficient at the way we operate or run a particular program. So I think it's just something that's really has been a strength of mine, and we're seeing it in action now as we grow as a public company. And I hope that it resonates with our team members because I do harp on it quite constantly.
And I got to tell you, there's almost no company more appropriate than for those skill sets than this, because you're talking about logistics,
yes,
tight government regulations, so many moving critical factors. This isn't a widget factory. We get some wood, we make some widgets, ship them out the door, and do some sales and marketing. Most people can do that. So, man, Empower. I think that's why Empower is thriving. If Empower had hired George Cholas to be the CEO in January of 2019, I'm confident, pretty good at stuff. No way. I mean, I would be struggling, right? I'd be this skill set is ideal for this.
Yeah, thank you, George. I appreciate the kind words, and again, it's just an area of personal strength for me, and I just recognize the importance of it. And all of the key leaders, whether it's Yoshi Tyler, or it's the two doctors, or it's Dustin or Andrea Klein in Sun Valley, we're applying these thought processes at all times. And it's really always work in progress. It's continuous improvement, right? It's you don't get to a point and then it stops. It's continuous improvement all the way along as we grow.
Steve, next question comes in from Big Eye. Long question. Basically, what Big Eye is asking is about what we're doing about psychedelics, the psychedelics initiatives that you'd had on the table. Do you have a plan to provide quality psychedelic therapies? What are we doing with the psychedelics? I know that was something you're looking at mid last year.
Yeah, so I mean, I get this question a lot, and my response on it was very consistent. I mean, we are going to play an important role in mental health in the future. The key for me with our position in mental health and the delivery of care is around managing clinics, managing physicians, and providing quality patient care. you have to remember that these new novel, psychedelic products that, are not regulatory approved in most jurisdictions,
Right.
they're not going to be a recreational product per se, right? They are going to be
Definitely
run
not.
with prescription. They're going to be run with physician supervision. Our strength, our lane in mental health is exactly that. So until I was able to get our Canadian Clinic Group acquisition completed,
Makes sense.
I wasn't even prepared to start, talking about, going further, because that's our basis, is to have our integrated healthcare network in Canada up and running and developing. From there, we can start to lay on mental health centers, or the delivery of mental health care through our centers. What we do, or how we participate with novel new treatment options that come to market, well, that will be, to be determined. What we won't be is some, pure play, psilocybin company trying to create API or create a product, or build functional mushroom products to try to generate revenue because they have no other source of revenue right now. I don't think that's what our strength will be.
No, definitely not.
I want to delineate that aspect. But it is fair to say that we're going to play a strong role in mental health. It's coming ahead for us now. We've got infrastructure in place to which we can build upon. So there'll be more announcements as we get through the quarters ahead. But we'll definitely be a player in the space.
Yeah, business 101. You build that massive pipe, and then you start putting different things through it, right? And that's
and I think the
clinics
other thing that people should realize and not underestimate is the power of our data. We have millions of data points that can help describe the efficacy of treatment options for various qualifying conditions. And to the extent that we can utilize that data, share that data in a compliant manner with research companies. So as an example, could we partner with Compass Pathways, who are doing psilocybin trials and research, because we've got millions of data points of patients with mental health and their qualifying conditions and their outcomes. And so I've talked quite a lot recently about the importance of our data, about artificial intelligence and how we understand our data, harness the data. It's for these very reasons that I think our data will prove to be a very valuable asset for our company. We're going to have millions of patients.
Massive,
future,
right? Massive.
We're already crossed 200,000 patients by virtue of our Canadian Clinic acquisition, and we have patients across various jurisdictions, various qualifying conditions, and I think those data assets are going to prove to be extremely valuable going forward. And we're going to dedicate resources and bring specialists on to help us exercise that part of our business.
At Care asks, and I think we've kind of, even though not specifically, I think we've kind of dealt with this. Is the company planning aggressive expansion in both Canada and the USA? And I think in the aggregate, we probably answered that question a number of different times on different points. Clearly, yeah, and in all the different areas you've already discussed. Unless you want to,
it's a pretty simple yes.
Yeah,
we're firmly rooted in the healthcare ecosystem in the United States. We're now rooted in Canada in the healthcare system. The healthcare systems are very different, vastly different between the US and Canada, but we have deep experience and deep understanding of both markets. It's going to be important for us to continue to develop our integrated healthcare model in both markets.
AC94 asks a question that I think is probably a question you can ask any company. If a significant COVID testing deal is made, so George Com, I guess, right? It says, hey, Steve, I'm George Com and I need a gazillion tests. What they're asking is, does Empower have the resources to protest those tests, as Kai is already busy? I know what the answer is, but I'll just throw that to you anyways.
Yeah, so that's really a capacity question. So,
Right.
We are grateful that Chi Medical is so busy, but Chi Medical has a lot of runway. And, if we get our operations the way that set up the way fully that we want, if we do this next expansion that we now believe is the right thing to do to prepare for the scale and the logistics required, we have the ability to process literally thousands of specimens per day. And we have capacity space at the moment. So I think the answer to the question is we do have the processing capacity to take on large orders. And we are continuing to take large orders now. I mean, even in my time being down here for the last 2 days, I've already learned of new large orders that are coming. And
Nice.
I think
That's
it's great.
news.
Yeah, and I think it was smart of us to get ahead of this, new 25,000 unit saliva test order, because there's lead times from the manufacturer, right? So, we just know that this test protocol is going to be popular. And I think that with all the new travel programs that we're involved in, and if we get our ability to sell and distribute in Canada, I think the sky's the limit for us.
Just going off on an offshoot there, when you do get those 25, because earlier you said you haven't sold any of those 25,000 yet because you don't have them.
Right.
And these are items that you have to be able to deliver now. So when they do come in, are you guys pretty confident that you'll be able to, we know they're not going to all go in one day, but you're pretty confident that you're going to start chewing right into that inventory from the get-go?
Oh, immediately. I mean, some of that inventory is already spoken for. I mean, we
okay, that's maybe do you have an idea of what percentage is spoken for?
Yeah, maybe that's the way to do it, right? Or say it is that, we haven't obviously sold it and cashed the check, but I can tell you that allocation from that inventory is already committed to large, big customers, because we know what volume they've asked for over the next 3 months. So we know out of that 25,000, there are many thousands already. We know where they're going.
That's great. That's great. Great question from AC94. I like this question. Do you find that having to mail back your COVID test an issue in terms of the willingness of the customer to go through the hassle? And that's interesting. I guess it really comes down to how badly they need to do it. But the question is it a disincentive for George to go on vacation if I've got to take a COVID test with me and then mail it back to you, which is the same for everybody. But what have you guys found?
Well, I don't have a lot of feedback on that. I certainly don't have any negative pushback that I can, kind of point to. I compare it to the inconvenience and discomfort of having to go to a drive-up test somewhere, wait in line for potentially hours, and then wait 2, 3, 4 days because of backlogs to get your result back. The fact that you can order it and self-administer the specimen collection at home for yourself, for your loved ones, at work, coworkers can, or businesses can do it for their employees. And then it's as simple as, putting it back in the mail or the FedEx envelope that we provide, doesn't seem too difficult to me compared to the alternative. The second thing that everyone should realize is government policy has been established. I'm not making the rules. Chi Medical doesn't make the rules. We're just trying to help provide better solutions, effective solutions, to enable Canadians and Americans to follow the rules accordingly. So
if you got to do it, you got to do it, right? That's what it comes down to. This isn't optional. If I got to go somewhere and if I want to be a part of some event or something like that, I'm going to have to do it, whether I like it or not.
Exactly. You have to resolve yourself to the fact that you cannot get back on a plane to come to Canada if you can't produce a negative COVID-19 test from a certified laboratory. So, these are the key factors here. So we just happen to have what I think is an extremely elegant solution. We are very early to the market compared to competitors across the United States. I think it's a bit of an opportunity for us to really put ourselves on a national stage. And that's full credit to the team here at Chi Medical for them to be able to pull this off on such a short turnaround
Yeah,
time.
big time.
Yeah.
And their last question, I'm going to answer this one. Do you think that COVID testing will be a large part of CBT's revenue for 2021? Yes. I'm going to answer that. Is that okay? I stole your thunder there?
You go ahead and steal that thunder all the time, but that certainly seems to be where things are going.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way.
Yeah, and I don't know what that ultimate mix is going to look like yet. We are very bullish on the healthcare systems or our healthcare units in Canada. Our pending primary care and paramedical centers actually do throw off a lot of top line revenue per month. So there's quite impressive numbers that will be coming.
That's great.
With those as well. But we certainly, again, are optimistic about the continued growth rates for Chi Medical as well.
Coming in from Twitter. All right, we got some Twitter questions. First one from @Entropy Roshan. Does Empower include any cannabis-related wellness therapies within its network of clinics and providers? How's it monetized? Yeah,
so in our sort of core clinics in Arizona and also our clinic up in Portland, there's still the provision of the medical cannabis certification service. However, there's much more diversification. So particularly in Sun Valley Health, they've very aggressively diversified into COVID-19 testing, whether it's in clinics or concierge testing. They're providing RT-PCR testing. They've already have taken their first orders of the Chi Saliva test kit program. And they're also involved in providing the rapid antigen test protocols as well. And we are having them also now further diversify to bring other health and wellness services, kind of like what we're doing in Canada with the clinic group there, into the model of Sun Valley Health. So I think what you'll see as a mix in our revenue streams in medical services, there'll be a lower mix for the old service of medical cannabis certification and a far greater mix for healthcare services.
Next question, Twitter from @JackVo0118. And this is an international question, Steve. Greetings from Finland. As investor, I think we've answered. I'd like to know about one, revenue guidance. We haven't answered that obviously yet, but are you allowed to give? I don't think you're allowed to give revenue guidance unless you put it into a press release.
Correct.
Right. So great question, but no, definitely.
Yeah, and I can give a little bit of update on that. So we are in the near future about to have official analyst coverage through Mackie Research, and there'll be independent, their independent healthcare analysts will be covering us on a formal basis. So there'll be some good technical updates from that analyst group coming. And I think that coverage is going to be initiated, in the very near future. I'm working on that data set with them right now. So I think that will help. That will help some of these questions that I do tend to get a lot of. But we have securities guidelines related to guidance that we have to be somewhat cautious with.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. None of us want to go. I don't want to be in handcuffs. That's for sure. And the other two questions were expansion partnership plans. We've dealt with that. And the third question was psychedelics. We dealt with that. But Finland, thank you. And to my fellow Greeks, kind of disappointed actually that we didn't get a question from Greece. At least I don't know about it yet. Next one, David Young at Canada Dave NS. Any plans for a Chi 2 clinic in Toronto? And I don't think they meant to say clinic. They probably meant to say any plans for a Chi 2 lab in Toronto. We've answered that you're looking for them.
Yeah, we are working on it. Again, it's a bit more challenging in Canada because there are frankly a shortage of labs and a little bit of a monopoly with a couple of the big groups. But there definitely are some targets out there that we're in very preliminary discussions with, but we have an appetite to do something.
What's your strategy to develop the telehealth market?
Well, we're involved in telehealth already, as you know. We've been
Of course.
providing telehealth services for the last 2 years in our clinics in Portland and Oregon and in Arizona. So the telehealth market and virtual care, we will be a very strong player in that. I mean, I'm looking at new technologies that we might bring on board. We're looking at EMR systems and platforms that we might be interested in, but integrated telemedicine, virtual care, mobile delivery of care will be part of our entire ecosystem of healthcare.
I'm sorry that I'm pausing there for a second because I've been going through the questions while you're answering and listening and going through. So it looks like I think that might be it, because we got Batman Thailand, who's asking about any update about the warrants. We've got that out of the way. And question about sale pertaining to 25,000 test kits. We just did with that.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's it.
Well, thank you. And just really for all the shareholders, again, I thank you for your contacts. I thank you for your kind words. I thank you for your diligent research and posing the difficult questions. It's incumbent upon me to, be thoughtful, be prepared, be available as best I can. We're continuing with our organizational development work in 2021 to make sure that we can continue with really strong investor relations support, investor relations engagement and communication. And I hope that everybody, continues to follow us and, shares the news and the excitement that we feel. And just you have my commitment that myself and all of our team members will continue to work hard, but we will also work smart going forward as well to be, as efficient as we possibly can, recognizing that we've got a responsibility to our shareholders.
And Steve, you can't show that more. You can't put real action behind those words and what you've done now. You're in Dallas. You're on a clock for sure, like I said earlier, and yet you're taking time out to do this right now. You could have easily said, "Hey, George, when I'm back, I'm not sure when you're going back, but maybe the weekend or something, we'll do it then." But you want to do it tonight, so we can get it out possibly as early as tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. And I think that's fantastic. So thanks a lot, Steve. And
thank you, George.
This is a great inaugural Empower Clinics shareholder Q&A. I think it was awesome. A lot of great questions. And even more importantly, a lot of great answers. And for everyone who participated, look, now that you've started to post your questions to Agoracom, which is the only verified forum for Empower Clinics, let's keep that going and build that community, because not for self-serve reasons, but for Empower reasons, which is it's verified, so you know who you're getting your answers from. There's going to be Steve and potentially a new hire that just came on that will be able to get you some questions as well, some answers as well. Plus, it's a great way to make sure messaging stays focused. Real questions, real answers, none of the nonsense. Because as Empower continues to grow, it's going to be really important to have great communication, great engagement between you guys and the team. So keep that going. Thanks for participating, everybody. This was awesome. Have a fantastic day. Looking forward to seeing your feedback on Agoracom and on Twitter and maybe other places. It's been awesome. Have a great day. See you next time.